Now we finally have an update on the drowning death of Malcolm Jamal Warner. Now, according to ABC7, they stated that Malcolm Jamal Warner had drowned while he was on vacation in Costa Rica. Now, the article goes on to say that Warner had drowned off the coast of Costa Rica on Sunday. So this actually occurred on Sunday. They stated that the Costa Rican National Police had told this to ABC News.
Jaguar Wright has stormed into the spotlight with jaw-dropping claims about the mysterious passing of Malcolm Jamal Warner. And if even half of what she's spilling is true, we're not just dealing with a tragedy. We're staring at a full-blown cover-up. Jaguar says Malcolm wasn't simply spiraling before he died. He was literally running, sprinting away from something or someone. And now, after weeks of whispers, U.S. authorities are officially digging in. Reports confirm that police have opened a formal investigation into Malcolm's final days, and the shocking details lining up with Jaguar's warnings are wild. Why was Malcolm so paranoid? What had him so terrified? How deep does this rabbit hole go? Because if Jaguar's right, then this wasn't random, and it sure wasn't sudden. This was a ticking time bomb waiting to explode. Jaguar swears Malcolm Jamal Warner didn't just fly off to Costa Rica for some chill getaway like the headlines made it sound. She insists he wasn't vacationing at all. He was on the run. Malcolm, she claims, knew someone was coming for him, and he was scared for his life, like he felt something terrible was closing in. Then comes the chilling detail making everybody's skin crawl. Hours before his death, Malcolm was caught on video walking alone on a dark beach. At first glance, it might seem harmless, but when you really study it, the whole energy shifts. He doesn't look relaxed, his body language is tight, his eyes darting like he's carrying a heavy secret and constantly checking over his shoulder. Fans now say it's like he knew something was about to go down. So who was chasing him? And why hasn't this been blasted across every major headline? Because let's be real, Jaguar has been right before. And if she's on point this time, then this wasn't just some freak accident.
From $50 million.
Well, I wasn't walking away from the money.
Yeah.
I was walking away from the circumstances that were coming with the newfound plateau.
Yeah.
It takes a while when you punch through to adjust to the atmosphere.
This was something sinister playing out behind the scenes. Some even believe Malcolm tried to send us a silent warning before it was too late. Jaguar doubles down, saying the reason Malcolm looked so rattled in that beach video was because he had just been threatened again, this time by people with serious power he was about to expose. According to her, that walk wasn't peaceful at all. It came right after he was hit with another chilling message. That's why his vibe looked so disturbed, like he was wrestling with a deadly choice. But here's the twist. When that clip first surfaced, folks already had doubts. Something just felt wrong. He didn't look like himself. Whispers started spreading that maybe he was under the influence, maybe drunk or high, just trying to explain why he seemed so uneasy. Then, boom, the autopsy results dropped and the truth flipped the whole thing. Not a single trace of drugs or alcohol in Malcolm's system. That killed every rumor about him being intoxicated, which means when you rewatch that video, you see it different. Malcolm was stone sober. So what had him so shaken? Now Jaguar's words hit way harder. If he really was getting threatened by powerful forces and if he knew danger was circling him, then that beach walk wasn't just random. It could have been the very moment he realized the game had turned deadly. That changes everything. And the darkness doesn't stop there. Jaguar swears the drowning story is bogus. Yes, his body was pulled from the water, but she claims Malcolm was already gone long before he touched the ocean. That would explain why he didn't fight the current or even attempt to escape a riptide. Fans point out Malcolm wasn't some clueless tourist. He was an experienced swimmer.
I've been in show business since I was 14, and I've heard the stories of what happens, and I've seen these kinds of things play out in front of me.
Okay. When you say you heard the stories, what do you mean? What stories?
I mean, you see it before. Look, Mariah Carey made a $100 million deal, and 3 months later, she's all of a sudden mysteriously crazy. Or Martin Lawrence punches through and he's waving a gun on the street screaming, "They're trying to kill me."
Yeah. Yeah, we hear those stories.
And it always happens around the time in their career where it seems as though they're crossing over the next plateau.
Yeah.
He knew how to ride out rough waves, so why didn't he fight? Maybe because he couldn't, or maybe because the battle was over before it even began. So the real question is, who was after him and how did they manage to make it look so clean? Jaguar insists Malcolm became a target the second he stopped playing the game. She claims he refused to shrink himself just to make Hollywood comfortable. And if you know how that machine moves, you know that's when it gets deadly. Jaguar says Malcolm wasn't going to play the role of the quiet, polished, safe black man Hollywood loves to package. He was loud, he was bold, he was calling out hypocrisy, and she insists he was preparing to expose secrets that could have rattled cages all the way to the top. And if you've been paying attention, you already know Hollywood has a long history of silencing outspoken black men when they stop cooperating. Because once you stop following the script, or worse, start speaking out, that's when the storm really hits. Just look back at Dave Chappelle in 2005. He walked away from that $50 million Comedy Central deal and disappeared to Africa. The media immediately painted him as crazy, unstable, spreading lies that he was on drugs or losing his mind. But when Dave sat down with Oprah, he cleared it up. He said it wasn't about the money, it was the conditions, the pressure, the way they tried to box him in. He wasn't about to sell his soul to play their game. Dave explained how entertainers smash into a dark wall right before that next level of fame.
Black community is not a monolith. There's so many levels and lanes to the black community, and we wanted to have a space where we could acknowledge, discuss all of those lanes, because they're so varied in terms of our perspectives and our opinions and our ways of life, and we wanted to be able to have a place where we can talk about all of those things, discuss all of those things, and shed light on the not all hood aspects of who we are.
And it's the same machine that builds you up that'll tear you apart if you stop complying. One of his breaking points was realizing the sketches weren't just jokes anymore. They were designed to make people laugh at black men, not with them. And he wasn't going to be a pawn in that twisted system. Now, compare Malcolm's story to Dave's, and the parallels are flat out chilling. Dave barely survived that storm. His career flatlined for years before he clawed his way back. But Malcolm, if Jaguar's right, never got that chance. She says he was on the same dangerous path, except the stakes were even higher. Because this time he was ready to drop receipts on secrets that could have blown the industry apart. Look at the Drake versus Kendrick feud. While fans were busy picking sides, Malcolm was one of the few cutting straight through the noise. He said what nobody else dared to, that powerful people behind the curtain were the ones pushing these two giants against each other. And according to Jaguar, those same people didn't like being exposed. Malcolm wasn't just stirring the pot, he was exposing the whole kitchen. That's when the danger around him got real. And it didn't stop there. In his final podcast interviews, Malcolm went even harder. He straight up called out the power players he said were pulling strings, treating black men like disposable pawns. In one clip, he broke it down crystal clear. The media dehumanizes black men, boxes them in, slaps on labels, and pushes them over the edge just for existing. But the part that left people stunned? He hinted he was about to put it all on the table. No metaphors, no vague hints. He sounded like a man racing against time, fully aware the clock was running out. Looking back now, fans are asking the scariest question of all. Was that his final warning? Did he already know he had crossed the wrong people and his days were numbered? As wild as Jaguar's claims sound, more and more people are connecting the dots. Because once you sit down and actually map this story out, way too much doesn't add up. The timeline is messy and the official details keep shifting. For a case that was supposed to be simple, everything falls apart the second you study it for more than a few seconds. At first, officials claimed Malcolm drowned after being pulled into a riptide while trying to save his daughter. A spokesperson from the Judicial Investigation Agency even said, "It appears that at one point, Mr. Warner was playing with his daughter at the shoreline. He later left her out of the water and supposedly entered the sea along with a friend. It was at that moment the current pulled them in. The friend managed to escape, but unfortunately Warner did not." But right away, red flags shot up, because then the chief of the tourist police in the Atlantic region told a completely different story. He claimed Malcolm's family, including his daughter, weren't even at the beach when it happened. According to him, they spoke directly to Malcolm's family and they weren't present during this so-called accident. So now we've got two official sources with two totally opposite stories, and no way to know who's really telling the truth. What's crazier is that instead of fixing their contradictions, the Judicial Investigation Agency doubled down. When pressed by the Daily Mail, they repeated the same storyline about Malcolm's daughter being on the shoreline, but this time they threw in even more details. A surfer diving in to rescue her with his board, a volunteer lifeguard dragging Warner and another surfer to safety. Like the script kept changing with every retelling. But here's the kicker. Every so-called witness has a completely different version. At this point, you've got to ask, who's lying? Or scarier, are all of them lying? Jaguar Wright says even the US government isn't buying the neat little story, and that's why she claims they're stepping in with their own investigation. Remember, this all went down outside US borders, so technically it's out of their jurisdiction. But Malcolm was a US citizen, and if there's even a whiff of foul play, you already know the feds don't just sit on the sidelines, and this wouldn't be the first time the US got involved in a suspicious overseas case. Think back to Shanquella Robinson in 2022. She lost her life while on a trip to Cabo, Mexico. Even though Mexican authorities were already investigating, the US still opened its own case because too many things didn't line up. If history is repeating itself, then Malcolm's death might be getting way more attention behind closed doors than we're being told. Jaguar insists that's exactly what's happening. That the feds are already digging deep into what really went down, and if that's true, Hollywood could be facing the shakeup of a lifetime. Because if investigators connect Malcolm's final days to the same powerful figures Jaguar says were threatening him, and if his death turns out to be more than a tragic accident, then the entire entertainment industry will be forced to face the dirt it's been hiding for decades. If Jaguar's right and the feds are really inside this case, then we're not just talking about a tragedy, we're talking about a scandal ready to explode. Malcolm Jamal Warner may not have been running from fame, he may have been fighting for his life, and with US authorities circling, this could expose secrets, crush careers, and blow the lid off one of Hollywood's darkest cover-ups. Because if the truth leaks out, it's game over for whoever's been hiding in the shadows. So what do you think really happened to Malcolm Jamal Warner? Was this just a tragic accident or something far darker? Drop your thoughts in the comments, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and don't forget to share this video with everybody you know, and I'll catch you on the next one.